Hello trucking family, this is Kevin with the trucker side. Our team is always on the trucker side. We're back with the video we promised about breaking down the different ways to get a CDL, what you got to be careful with, what you want to look for to make sure you do the right thing. So stay tuned and make sure you follow all the way to the end because we're going to put some good information over here. We're going to start with the first option we presented, the private CDL schools, where it's basically a private business that is teaching people how to drive, gets them in the truck to get them on the road. The red flags that you want to be aware of and you want to be very careful with are the following: classic sales pitches. So the more somebody's trying to sell you something, chances are the quality of the service is lower. So classic sales pitches like sign up this week or lose your spot or stuff of that nature is generally a shady practice. You want to do this on your terms, on your time, not on anybody's pressure that is being put upon you. Another thing you want to be careful with, the 100% job placement advertising. The job placement generally is a deal between the driving school and the trucking company that directs students towards a certain company. These driving schools are usually oriented towards sending drivers to a specific company and does not necessarily care about the needs you have as a driver, your home time, your routes you want to drive, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you follow those on your term as well and not get a job from somebody just for the sake of having it. Most likely it's not going to be efficient. Then you want to be careful with financing options. Just like any other financing, there's good deals and there's bad deals. So make sure that you understand the conditions of the financing before you decide to sign the deal, and make sure you understand everything that you're signing up for to the last cent. Another thing you want to be careful with is truck simulators versus actual trucks. In order to be safe for yourself and the other participants in traffic, you want to make sure you get hands-on experience in a real truck with a real trailer on the public roads. Simulators can be good in the beginning, but before you decide to get on the road and drive, you want to make sure that you have some hours behind the wheel in an actual truck. So make sure that this is something that you are going to go through while you're doing the training, and you know how to drive, how to maneuver, and what you need to be careful with while you're out on the road. Good schools generally are owned and ran by former truck drivers, people who have been on the road for many years. They understand the challenges of being on the road. They understand the difference between driving outside of the city, inside the city, different weather conditions, and generally these schools are oriented towards actually training people to be safe, to keep the roads safe, and make sure that everything runs smooth. Be also careful of low student to truck ratios. So that's a factor that you want to look into. Some driving schools will have a lot of students. Now, this might be different from one city to another depending on availability. So it's not there's no set rule, but also, try to make sure that you don't get in a situation where when you go to take your training, there's 30 people there, one truck, and you end up waiting a lot of hours to get behind the wheel and get some practice in. Make sure that the pricing is transparent. Again, this is something that a good school will lay down for you to see, every single number, every single fee from the beginning of the program up until the end. That's something you want to be sure of 100%. Good schools will have references available. They will let you talk to students who graduated over there, talk about their experience, and make sure that you have a good experience yourself and learn all the things that you need to learn. Also, look at the pass rate. Their schools generally have a certain percentage that is the pass rate, as in how many of the students that attended the program actually finish, because there are schools out there where you go through the program, you pay, and if you fail, you got to pay extra fees or additional costs, and it ends up wasting your time and money, and it doesn't get you any closer to a job than you want to be. The real schools, the real good schools, care mostly about the graduates succeeding, not about profits. It is a high cost business, so a lot of shady businesses will cut corners just to make profits and don't actually care about you, your career, your CDL, your time, your finances, or anything like that. So make sure you keep those into consideration when you choose the CDL school you go to. Next up is the company sponsored CDL. This is one that you want to be very, very careful with, because you got to look at things as they are. These are very big companies with very big budgets that always promise anything you want to hear. There's a lot of competition in this. Pretty much everybody's fighting for the same drivers, so everybody's going to tell you and promise you anything that you want to hear in order to go work for them. There has been a driver shortage in the country, and there's probably going to be a driver shortage, so everybody's going to try to sell themselves as the best and hardly deliver. They rarely deliver on their promises, so you want to be very careful with this, because you are going to have to work with them for a while. Programs are different, but it's generally over a year, sometimes even over 2 years, depending on the company, and it's a lot of time. Make sure you do your research if you decide to get your CDL through a company, because you're going to have to stick with them for a while. Otherwise, they have specific fees and costs if you quit early, and they do have the right, some of them, to take legal action. It's usually written in the contract, so make sure you read that contract very, very carefully so you don't have surprises, because at times it can be challenging to work with them. Reason why it can be challenging: once you finish their program, the class training, the part that you do with an instructor inside the yard, you're going to have to get on the road with a trainer. This is going to be a long amount of time where you're going to be driving basically with a stranger that they assign you to work with. You don't know this person, and a truck is a small place. You're going to be stuck with this person inside the same cab, sleeper. You're going to be with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, driving across the country. So that can be challenging, and you don't know what you're up against ahead of time. So you want to make sure that you do your research when it comes to these companies. You want to make sure you look into their reviews, try and talk to their drivers, because it is going to be a rough patch in the beginning. And you want to take into consideration the fact that if you start working somewhere and you don't have continuity, you start switching jobs, that's going to look very bad on your record. If you put that aside to the fact that you might have to cover costs for quitting early, you might just start off your trucking career on the wrong foot. So make sure you do your research and your due diligence to make the right choice. The third option, the one where you go to a community college, has advantages over the other two options, because first of all, a community college is an educational institution, is not a business. Their purpose is to educate people and get them to do a good job. You're going to be dealing with teachers, not instructors. A teacher is a different type of person that has more interest in your knowledge and your success than any instructor that is a hired person for a business. So keep that in mind, it is very important. Then community colleges have different programs of financial aids, unlike financing programs from a private business. So that can benefit you. They are way more transparent when it comes to their financial programs and their grants and any other stuff that they might have going on. They generally do the education at a slower pace. A slower pace means better learning for you. This is something you want to take into consideration, because you will be eventually driving a vehicle that gets up to 80,000 pounds, sometimes even more, depending on the type of trailer you haul. And that is not a toy. That is something you want to be very careful with. You want to drive very safely. So cut no corners when it comes to the education you get. in order to do that, because it's going to be very important for your safety and your success. Also, another benefit that you get from community colleges, if they do have a career option for you, is probably going to be something way more dependable than something you get from a private school that has a deal or another with other companies where they benefit more or less. Again, the bottom point over here is the fact that the community college program is way more oriented towards your education and your safety than a private company will ever be. I'm not saying there's not good companies out there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's no good trucking companies that will get you a CDL. I'm not discrediting them in any way. I'm just saying make sure you do your research and your due diligence, because this is very important for you. This is the first steps that you're taking in order to get a CDL and start a new career. So you want to make sure you do everything right, because it is a very competitive industry. There's a lot of risks, there's a lot of stress, and you want to make sure that you do things right. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us on our email, respond to our videos. We'll do our best to stay available for you. So for anything you need, our email address is at the bottom. Thanks for watching this. If you have any other ideas that you want to hear about, we'll post those out. We'll post more videos about the next steps that you get after you get your CDL. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We're always on the trucker side. We're always here for you. Thanks for watching this. I hope you find it useful. Have a good day.